Let's see. Hello. There we go. All right, you guys. This is the Logic Only Zone, and welcome to Logic Church. Tonight, you guys, open topic, so anything goes. Happy to be here with you guys. Quintica may or may not be here, suffering from the wrath of God right now. He's in the middle of a crazy thunderstorm, so he may not be here with us today. So wish him the best and hope he'll be all right. I'm sure he'll be fine. Go ahead, guys, and join if you'd like. The link is at the top of the chat and also in the description. I've also put it on Twitter, so if you guys are tweeting, out there twittering, I'm not sure how it's said these days, then you guys can join. So I hope everybody's having an awesome Friday. Go ahead in the chat. Let me know what you guys are doing today, if you're doing anything cool. I'm just chilling. Been working out really hard this week, so feeling pretty good. Having some mint tea, peppermint tea, actually. It's bomb. Good stuff. So, yeah, so later on, you guys, I am going to provide a link in the description where you guys can skip to where people join. So you don't have to chill here with me, and that's okay. So guys, link to join is at the top of the chat. And in the description. Maybe I should read something. I should probably read something. Let me get something to read. This is the tale of the Heike. This is translated by Helen Craig McCullough, and they're actually quite a famous translator. They've translated all kinds of stuff in this field, so it's kind of interesting. But let's just pull out a passage here. By nature, a man of dauntless spirit, Psycho showed no nervousness or discomfiture. I didn't even know that was a word. He sat up straight with a derisive laugh. Derisive? There's some interesting language in this. This McCullough fellow, quite interesting. What nonsense! It is you who forgot your position when you talk like that, he said boldly. Others may not object, but I refuse to let you use such language to me. I don't claim that I, as a member of the retired emperor's staff, refused to participate in the recruitment activities that Narichika said His Majesty had ordered. I did participate, but you have made statements I can't allow to pass. Although you were the son of the late punishments minister, Tadamori, you never showed your face at court until you were 14 or 15. Oh, this is terribly boring. I'm not going to continue reading that anymore. Yeah, there's some people watching. You guys want to join? Go ahead and pop in here. The link is at the top of the chat. Lyrical, you're going to watch me. Okay, let me get something that's a bit more interesting to read. How about some Plato? Let's read some Plato. Here's Plato. What is it? Epictetus, I don't know. Let's read the conclusion. Yeah, what I do when I read books is I read the conclusion first. I know this is not a popular thing to do, but I'm going to ruin it for you, if you don't mind. So, some of the Stoics indeed express themselves in very arrogant, absurd terms about the wife man's self-sufficiency. They elevated him to the rank of a deity, but these were only talkers and lecturers, such as those in all ages who utter fine words, know little of human affairs, and care only for notoriety. Epictetus and Antoninus, by precept and example, labored to improve themselves and others. And if we discover imperfections in their teachings, we must still honor these great men who attempted to know that there is in man's nature and in the constitution of things sufficient reason for living a virtuous life. It is difficult enough to live as we ought to live, difficult even for any man to live in such a way as to satisfy himself, if he exercises only in a moderate degree the power of reflecting upon and reviewing his own conduct. And if all men cannot be brought to the same opinions in morals and religion, it is at least worthwhile to give them good reasons for as many as they can be persuaded to accept. Ah, what a wonderful thing. And there's a little passage here. So for virtue only of all human things takes her reward not from the hands of others. Virtue herself rewards the toils of virtue. Nice. Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet, I'd say. Guys, if you'd like to join, the link is at the top of the chat and in the description. I'm just lollygagging. I'm just waiting for people to join. So let's see how this begins. This is a very interesting text. Much more interesting than the tale of the Heike. Just a bunch of squabbling emperor and kings or whatever. I don't know. The Apology of Socrates. How you have felt, O men of Athens, at hearing the speeches of my accusers, I cannot tell. But I know that their persuasive words almost made me forget who I was. Such was the effect of them. And yet, they have hardly spoken a word of truth. But many as their falsehoods were, there was one of them which quite amazed me. I mean, when they told you to be upon your guard, and not to let yourself be deceived by the force of my eloquency. They ought to have been ashamed of saying this, because they were sure to be detected as soon as I opened my lips and displayed my deficiency. They certainly did appear to be most shameful in saying this, unless by the force of the eloquency they mean the force of truth. For then I do indeed admit that I am eloquent, but in how different a way from theirs? Well, as I was saying, they have hardly uttered a word, or not more than a word of truth. But you shall hear from me the whole truth, not, however, delivered after their manner, in a set oration, dully ornamented with words and phrases. No, indeed, but I shall use the words and arguments which occur to me at the moment, for I am certain that this is right, and that at my time of life I ought not to be appearing before you, O men of Athens, in the character of a juvenile orator. Let no one expect this of me, and I must beg of you to grant me one favor, which is this. If you hear me using the same words in my defense, which I have been in the habit of using, and which most of you may have heard in the agora, and at the tables of the money changers, or anywhere else, I would ask you not to be surprised at this, and not to interrupt me. For I am more than 70 years of age, and this is the first time that I have ever appeared in a court of law, and I am quite a stranger to the ways of the place, and therefore I would have to regard me as if I were really a stranger, whom you would excuse if he spoke in his native tongue. And after the fashion of this country, that I think is not an unfair request. Never mind the manner, which may or may not be good, but think only of the justice of my cause and give heed to that. Let the judge decide justly, and the speaker speak truly. And first, I have to reply to the older charges and to my first accusers, and then I will go to the later ones, for I have had many accusers who accuse me of old, and their false charges have continued during many years, and I am more afraid of them than of Anytus and his associates, who are dangerous too in their own way. But far more dangerous are these, who began when you were children, and took possession of your minds with their falsehoods. telling of one Socrates, a wise man who speculated about the heaven above and searched into the earth beneath and made the worse appear the better cause. These are the accusers whom I dread, for they're the circulators of this rumor, and their hearers are too apt to fancy that speculators of this sort do not believe in the gods. And they are many, and their charges against me are of ancient date. And they may, I'm gonna leave one here in case somebody pops in the room. These are the accusers of whom I dread, for they are the circulators of this rumor, and their hearers are too apt to fancy the speculators of this sort do not believe in the gods. And they are many, and their charges against me are of ancient date, and they made them in the days when you were impressible, in childhood, or perhaps in youth. And the cause, when heard, went by default, for there was none to answer. And hardly of all, their names I do not know and cannot tell, unless in the chance of a comic poet. But the main body of these slanderers, who from envy and malice have brought upon you, and there are some of them who are convinced themselves, and impart their convictions to others. All these, I say, are most difficult to deal with, for I cannot have them appear and examine them, and therefore I must simply fight with shadows in my own defense, and examine when there is no one who answers. I will ask you then to assume with me, as I am saying, that my opponent are of two kinds, one recent, the other ancient, and I hope that you will see the propriety of my answering later first. For these accusations you heard long before the other, and much oftener. Well then, I will make my defense, and I will endeavor in the short time which is allowed to do away with this evil opinion of me, which you have held for such a long time, and I hope that I may succeed if this be well for you and me, and that my words may find favor with you. But I know that to accomplish this is not easy. I quite see the nature of the task. Let the event be as God wills. In obedience to the law, I make my defense. I will begin at the beginning, and I ask what the accusation is, which has given rise to the slander of me, and which has encouraged Meletus to proceed against me. What do the slanderers say? They shall be my prosecutors, and I will sum up their words in affidavit. Ooh, affidavit. I don't know what that means. Socrates is an evildoer and a curious person who searches into things under the earth and in heaven. And he makes the worse appear the better cause, and he teaches the aforesaid doctrines to others. That is the nature of the accusation, and that is what you have seen yourselves in the comedy of Aristophanes, who has introduced a man whom he calls Socrates, going about and saying that he can walk in the air, and talking a deal of nonsense concerning matters of which I do not pretend to know either much or little. Not that I mean to say anything disparaging of anyone who is a student of natural philosophy. I should be very sorry if Meletus could lay that to my charge. But the simple truth is, O Athenians, that I have nothing to do with these studies. Guys, feel free to join. The link is at the top of the chat and in the description. I'm just reading until people pop in here, so feel free to pop in. And hello, person that's here. How's it going?
Hi. Can you hear me, or?
Yeah, I hear you. I'm just chilling and reading until people pop in. Have you heard this story?
No. So, well, I know of it, but no, I have not gone right all the way through it. So that's.
Yeah. So basically, Socrates is arrested because he doesn't believe in the gods of the city, and he, in a full philosophical way, he tries to argue against them, and they put him to death. But yeah, it's kind of a depressing story, but there's a lot of value in it. So yeah. But anyway, so today's open topics. Have you ever seen my Hangouts before?
I've seen of them. Yes, and I was just gonna join today. I understand it's open topic.
Yeah.
I guess just in general. Should I just talk about myself first?
Yeah, go ahead. That's a great thing to talk about right now. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just to introduce myself. So, as you can call me Draco, or Eris. Either or works. Yeah, I'm Canadian,
Cool.
so yeah, can, I don't know if everyone knows about Canada, but
Yeah, we know Canada.
yes, um, it's a nice place for sure. But actually, it's interesting to be here. Just as far as opportunities are concerned, I find that like job wise, obviously I'm pretty young. I won't say how young, but I'm under 25, right? And as far as youth unemployment is concerned for where I live, I actually find that there's sort of depressing news about youth unemployment in Canada, but I find that around where I am, the opportunities are kind of just plentiful. It's not. It's
Oh,
actually it's really enjoyable to live sort of as specifically where I am, where the housing market, for instance, is not ridiculously overpriced like in Vancouver. Um, it's very fair prices on rent. You can actually find a lot of spaces that quite frankly are like just really nice spaces for under $500 a month rent, and it's really I quite enjoy it. So
wow.
as
That
me, a
sounds
young
like a paradise.
it in some ways, yes. But it obviously it depends on where you live.
Mhm.
But myself being an athlete, uh, in my sport, sort of self-funded to world levels,
Cool.
it's nice to live in an area that's got sort of a large, I guess I'd say, affluent population,
Hmm.
but without sort of the overpriced costs. It's really interesting. I live in a community that was built in the 60s. And it was built on the idea that you could sort of integrate and plan communities in a way that they would sort of naturally develop sort of different types of housing. So
Hmm.
I live. I guess I'll just sort of semi-dox where I live. I live in Canada, which is a suburb of Ottawa, Ontario,
Hmm.
which is the capital city, and specifically in the old section of Beaverbrook, which is it's rather nice. And Taryn, who actually resides, he was a developer who resides within the community he built. So that's sort of his plan. And when you see it from satellite images, you can even look, and it's really it's all parks almost everywhere. Almost every house backs onto parkland, and it's really nice. At the same time, like across the street from me is a co-op, so cooperative living, and then just a little ways over, there's all these rentable homes, and they're just down the street the other way. They're building brand new condos, like condo tower. So it's really it's a nice place to live. So yeah,
Cool. Yeah,
and
sounds like a place I'd
yeah.
like to see.
And there's also community gardens as well. So there's a lot of, well, they're trying to expand and build a lot of community gardens. So that's like a lot of sort of food and stuff. And yeah, it's nice. So
Cool. Yeah. I'd have to say the place I live is not as awesome as that, but yeah. It's kind of interesting. I've never actually been to Canada, so I can't really say how Canada is. I live in California. I can't say like how it compares to America and how our towns are. But I find that there's like a ton of poverty in my town, and it's pretty bad right now. Do you feel like the overall economy of Canada is affecting your town, or is there something going on there that the people in your town are able to band
well,
together?
uh, 16 years ago, definitely this area was hit hard by the tech crash of like in North America. There was a company Nortel used to employ a whole bunch of people here, and when it all but went under, a lot of the high tech jobs kind of um, fell through, and that sort of hit hard. And it took a good like 12 or so years for the area to recover those sort of more affluent jobs. But even though I guess you could sort of say that had in some ways a positive effect to what I was referring to earlier of the lower housing prices but still sort of affluent and well-educated area, sort of combined together in that sense. So like, but as I was saying before, like it's rather interesting how here, even though it's midway into the summer, usually like businesses will stop hiring after they have their summer staff sort of filtered in and only advertise again in the fall when a lot of the students go back to school or cut back their hours or sort of and stuff like that. But here, all the signs are still up for still hiring, like all this stuff. So yeah, but I don't find there's too much poverty where I specifically live.
Hmm.
Um, and that's sort of interesting. Even though there is a good amount of recently arrived uh, uh, immigrants from a lot of places, the the second language here, obviously, it's Canada, so it's French. But then we have a large speaking Mandarin speaking population, uh, where in particular communities, sort of just north of me, the second language would be Mandarin. So anyway, I find that rather
Yeah.
interesting. But in this
How do
area
you
as well that I live, though, there's
how
a
do you
lot
feel
of
about the healthcare though?
the
Is
healthcare.
healthcare still okay?
Now, here's what I will say.
Yeah, because in
My ex-
America, the news
yeah,
networks they just bomb the Canadian healthcare. They are not big fans. So I'm just curious to hear
well,
what you think.
I have a really good experience with the Canadian healthcare system. But my case may not be the best example, just because specifically I'm on Team Canada as an athlete, very high
Yeah.
rank, like world athlete level stuff. So when I have an issue with my hips. I have uh, um, essentially bone spurs in the hips, which
Oh.
can cause injury, labral tear, that sort of thing. So just this past December, I had surgery on my hip, and they're actually going to do left hip preventative surgery as well to prevent me from getting a labral tear. It was a lot of pain and very painful, but the overall experience between like my wait time for my MRI was very short. My as soon as my schedule worked out a date for my surgery, it was within a month of that I got in to actually have the surgery done. So it wasn't all that long. Mind you, my procedure is kind of rare,
Hmm.
and I am sort of a teaching case in that I'm very young and like a high performance athlete, which tend to, I don't want to say favored because obviously the system doesn't necessarily favor everyone, but in the case of there's some strings pulled. I feel like almost.
Yeah. So these injuries are these because of the particular athletic thing that you do?
Uh, partially yes, partially no. So it's femoral acetibular impingement.
Hmm.
So I have cam lesions, and uh, basically what ended up happening, the injury, yes, was caused. Essentially, uh, the sport that I'm in has a lot of extreme range of motion and etc. So yeah,
Hmm.
what ended up happening is I sort of imploded my own cartilage in my hip,
Oh boy. Yeah.
which
Actually, I'm
that was
also an athlete. I run pretty much every day, and
mm,
I started to get shin splints because I was running on asphalt, and so
uh,
I just started running on dirt. So all I do is run on dirt. I do not run on asphalt at all anymore, and that did it for me. So
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, so this sort of less of a repetitive stress injury, more of essentially excessive bone growth, causing
Uh,
sort of the joint to what normally is a ball and circuit joint, ball and socket joint, which if you can visualize the hip, you have the femur, the cam, sort of meets up with the hip itself, and that that it normally has a certain range of motion. It goes all the way around, can hit up against what's called the labrum, which is
mhm,
essentially a ring of cartilage around it. And what ends up happening is that ball socket is, or that ball on the femur end is sort of, it's not perfectly spherical
mhm,
on me, and so what ends up happening is it shreds the cartilage when the extreme range of motion hits, or even just sort of general repetitive sort of what's like twisting. So like for example, like running would be difficult with the labral tear
mhm.
just because the way the hip sort of moves. So Yeah.
Is this gonna end your career for your
Uh,
athleticism or?
well, the hope is that it doesn't, because
Hmm.
I am on track for the 2020 Olympics.
Yeah,
But
yeah, you want to do that. Yeah.
yes, and that was as well a lot to do with the whole trying to get it over and done with it within 2015, 2016, my surgery, so that way I had plenty of time to get back into training and get back up to the full sort of extent, which I had a really great recovery. Essentially, post surgery, about 3 months later, 3 months later, I was fully back to full range of motion. I was 8 months recovered, 3 months in. So I owe that a lot to diet and my really, really good physiotherapist that I have on call, which my physiotherapy wasn't covered by, like, it's not covered by government health insurance. So
Hmm.
that was paid out of pocket. But yeah, it was worth it to go above and beyond with an extra physiotherapist for the injury after the surgery. So yeah, I would recommend anyone who does surgery on like mobility, like knee or shoulder or anything like that, have like a private physiotherapist, one that you can pay the extra and have the extra time and attention, because you know the provided ones don't necessarily have the time.
Hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, and I think that's really interesting, and I hope it turns out well for you. That's so amazing that you're trying to be in the Olympics. I'm jealous. That's so cool.
Yes. It's been 19 years in the making, because the sport that I'm in, I'm a martial artist. Sorry. And yeah, so I started when I was 3 years old. So they there's I mean there are others that could potentially obviously take my place on Team Canada. I've already competed at world levels several times now, but yeah, obviously with my experience level, they sort of I'm one of the hopefuls for medaling. I have 2 bronze medals from 2014 in London. So
Cool.
not
Awesome.
that's not the 2012 Olympics, by the way. That's something else. It was just the world for karate. So
Cool. Well, there's actually a related topic I'd like to talk to you about, but I think I need to give John an opportunity
yeah,
to.
yes. Oh, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Uh,
Don't let me take the entire
no,
time.
yeah. John, did you want to talk about politics? What's on your mind, brother? Oh, is he still? Are you not ready yet? The room is yours, John. Bring it on. I'm ready for this political conversation. Politic it up. I'm ready. Okay, I guess he's not ready. Okay, he's going to be right back. All right, so what I wanted to talk about was something related to athleticism. Okay, so if I wanted to be an Olympic runner, how good would I need to be? Do you know that at all? Is that
Well, I can
how?
sort of
Yeah.
say how, like, I mean,
Do I have to be
obviously,
fast? How fast do I have to be?
to be a runner, well, I'm not, I don't know how the track and field sport works, but uh, it's actually less to do with sort of your actual sort of like level or ability, but more like how much you're willing to sacrifice of your own time, like make a career of it, knowing that money-wise, there's not going to be much in it for you. So, like in my sport, for instance, I know that I have to self-fund. Essentially, I have to go to compete in order to be recognized as the competitor. But yeah,
Right.
that's essentially how that works. So
Yeah. In my case, I just want to have an awesome body. So.
that's admirable as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was feeling sickly, so I got really skinny, and I was feeling sore all the time. I was just feeling terrible. So I started working out, and I just kept doing it. So yeah, guys should work out. That's good for you. But John, is your microphone working, man? And guys, you can join. The link is at the top of the chat and it's in the description. Come on in. John, what's going on with you, man? You're muted, bro. You're muted. You got to turn the mute off. I I don't even think I've met this guy, so I'm speaking to his avatar. Hello, John. He's like right down there, right down over here. Come on, John, wake up. But yeah,
This
so
fucking mic.
oh, there you go.
Can you
All
hear me?
right. Now we got you. Welcome, John.
I was just screaming in the mic. I was like, "This fucking mic."
Why won't you work?
Yeah.
Yes, politics.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I was just curious about some of the things that Draco was saying. Looks like they're just looking at. I mean, I don't know how they calculate their unemployment rate, but it looks like it's about 7%. United States is running at about 5.5. I mean, I think unemployment rates.
I can definitely speak to that. Yes. A lot of the unemployment rate, especially recently, like Alberta, as you know, sort of had a rather hard-hitting sort of slump especially with the slump of the oil prices.
Right.
And Southern Ontario lost a lot of manufacturing jobs over the last decade. So there is definitely employment, but Canada, it's a big place. I mean, it's obviously rather large. I mean, really everyone's clustered in cities, but each city is sort of its own ecosystem, which seems rather odd. But in Canada, there's not a lot of interprovincial sort of trade. I find that like a lot of even just like just business wise, there's a lot more trade like with New York State, which is right next sort of door, than there is say with British Columbia or Alberta, which is on the other side of the continent.
Right.
But,
That seems to make sense. It looks like you guys are divided. It sounds like not only like trade-wise, but also like you have a big language barrier, like between French and English, right?
Yes, the francophones. I mean, obviously, my grandfather on my mother's side was francophone, so unfortunately he passed away when I was 6 months old. So I never actually sort of had French experience in my family. But schooling-wise, you're schooled to be bilingual for most of your life. So it's
right. Okay, cool.
But yeah.
Kind of bringing it back.
How do you feel about the Canadian education system?
How do I feel about the Canadian education system? So I was educated in a Catholic school system.
Okay, it's a little different, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's different in that like you sort of have like forced religion courses now. I myself I sort of identify now as as atheist, but less so of like specifically rebellion against religion, and more just that sort of I never really argued too much into it. But I mean, my experience in the education system is, I guess, the same as like everyone knows high school sucks, and everybody knows that elementary school, you barely remember that stuff anyway. So yeah.
It's almost like daycare.
So basically, you're not an anti-theist. You're just an atheist, right?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, so you're an atheist. Ah, interesting. Yeah. I'm agnostic, so I take the middle way, the middle path. John, are you atheist? Are you comfortable to?
Full blown, baby.
Full blown. Can't get rid of that.
Yeah, cool. I'm an atheist. Yeah.
Cool. Right on, guys. Yeah, go ahead. We can talk about
so kind of bringing it back to United States. So where are you leaning right now? I think the one interaction I've had with you, you had some post about personal responsibility, and I was super. I was just joking around with you. I don't know if you remember. I doubt you do, but that's the only interaction I had with you. So where are you landing like politically right now?
Okay, I would never affiliate with a party, and that's because I'm kind of an individualist. But I do have to say that I kind of wish the system wasn't the way that it was in terms of it seems like people are being able to become candidates on the basis of financial wealth. So if they've got the money, then they can be a candidate. And philosophically and logically, I would say might doesn't make right. So just because you have the money doesn't mean that you should be able to become a candidate. So if I wanted to be president, then somehow I should be able to be on an equal standing point with these people. Then again, we live in a capitalist system, and money runs everything, and it's a complicated thing. So it's hard because there's no real perfect system. There's a way that you'd like things to be, but yeah.
Right.
So,
I think some people kind of dog on how long our political system takes. It costs many millions, but
the race has been so long. I feel like we've been talking about Hillary and Trump forever.
Right. But I think one thing that does help with a long election is when it comes to just name based. Like, for example, if I was to run against Trump.
Hey, wait a moment. Hello, all bigots.
And welcome everybody that just popped in. Welcome, guys.
Greetings.
Hey, what's going on, Edgy? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome.
I'm already drunk.
Mission accomplished.
Yes.
Hello there.
Demo Rats are always drunk.
Welcome. Cool. Yeah, so we're just talking about whatever. Totally open topics tonight, you guys.
No, not whatever. You're talking about things.
Things, yes.
Not whatever.
Yes. Right.
And you're smoking e-cigarette.
I'm smoking vegetable glycerin. No.
What is that?
No nicotine. No nicotine.
What?
That's pretty impressive.
Smoking weed, no nicotine.
Well,
No.
what flavor though?
There's no. Oh, blueberry. There's no drugs in this. It's just flavored vapor.
You can do that though. There are wax, what the fuck is concentrate atomizers for like wax and oil and shit.
Yes, yeah, you could do that. I don't do drugs though.
Yeah, I can't.
Just say no to drugs,
I can't do
guys.
that anymore because I'm about to get a real job. So.
Right.
It's an e-cigarette, okay?
Yeah. It's not a real cigarette. No big deal.
An e-cigarette, and you can choose if you have nicotine in it or not.
No nicotine.
Yeah, so this is no nicotine. Oh, John's gone. He'll probably be back.
So why are you smoking an e-cigarette without nicotine?
Because it's delicious, and I have
Static.
what is it? When you want things in your mouth, it's a Freudian thing. Anyway, I have some
Oral fixation.
I have an oral fixation.
Oral fixation.
Yeah. Not to be confused with anything sexual, but I do have it. I want something in my mouth. So.
You had to make my brain go.
Yeah,
I love that song.
apparently I like to talk too. So
Something to do with
Yeah.
pacifiers.
yeah. So when I was a kid, I just always had a pacifier or something.
You get Ilahori.
But yeah. So it looks like we have a Trump supporter here. I am.
Well,
We
we
have-
should all support Trump.
We have two actually.
Oh.
I am also. I thought we established this last time.
Oh,
Watch.
we did. We did. That's you were who I was referring to.
All agree. Let's all agree. Trump is no good. But we should all support Trump because establishment and elite is no good either.
Yeah, I think the trouble with Trump is we just don't know whose side he's really on. Is Trump on Trump's side or is he on
Yeah,
the
but they
people's
were
side?
against Hillary. I mean, Hillary, what side is she on? Where's she?
Hillary, we know we're Hillary fans. We know we're her.
Hillary,
My
Hillary-
problem with. Go ahead, Ad.
Hillary,
Dr. Lehman in the house. Kill yourself, my dude.
Hillary Clinton is
Dr. Lehman.
I'm all out of red pills, buddy. All out.
Hillary Clinton is
Craving for the red pills, Dr. Lehman.
for
Craving for the red pills.
Call it the red pill doctor.
for elderly support.
Red pill me on advertisian Emma Lamborghini.
Hey, fuck
The red pills.
Literally fucking die, my dude.
in indeed, literally.
What is he saying? I can't understand. Go ahead.
I
Speak,
said,
Dr. Lehman.
I said, fuck you too.
Sorry, just having fun.
What?
I'm sorry, I'm just like sorry. Doing
you're-
Dr. Lehman's
you're
voice.
fucking me.
So I mean, let me just say something here. In light of last night's events,
Oh yes, indeed.
in light of last night's events, I am strengthened in my fuck off, Layman. I am strengthened in my.
Which person is doing all the noise?
That would be.
Last night events, what do you mean with my...
I'm gonna kick him because he's his microphone is incomprehensible. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that Trump is the only one who has the balls to say that Black Lives Matter are stirring up shit that they can't cook. You know, they are. They say they're interested in solving a problem, but they only want to look at about a third of the problem.
Wow, this racist, my dude.
Yeah, I am an enormous racist because I don't support Black Lives Matter, but they can go fuck themselves.
Well,
I can support the statement Black Lives Matter because they do matter like every other life as well. But supporting the group, nah.
Right? Yeah.
I think, well, in my case, I don't support any groups, and that's because I believe in the empowerment of individuals to help themselves rather than.
You're born with freedom.
I don't know if that's a thing.
Yeah, when you talk about individualism, you talk about you're born with freedom.
What?
Ed, can you red pill me on postmodernism, Ed?
Please.
Oh fuck.
No.
Please.
No.
I had to deal with that already today.
Just take the purple pill. Look.
Yeah. Just take the purple pill. Right. That's got to do some serious neurological damage.
It's all about the.
I've got some oppressive white pills on the counter next to me. They're just Tylenols.
Hey, St. Clair, if you're gay, why does your avatar have a vagina?
You're not gay, you're hetero.
We are all hetero.
Yeah, we are all hetero.
You just.
Aww.
Did you kick him or did he leave?
It's a bunch of different things. It's an eye of Sauron. It's a sun. It's a ninja. It's a vagina. It's whatever the fuck you want it to be.
It's vagina dentata.
I hope that's not a vagina because it might be dangerous.
I mean, it literally, like, it even looks like a flower if you want to go in that context.
Yes, it's a flower. See, that's the first thing I thought.
It's an orchid. It's gynoception.
Dude, it looks like a fucking I don't know. I'm all out of jokes. Fuck you.
Maybe those are eyes there, and that's a mouth.
To me, it looks
and maybe it's a fucking.
It's supposed to be. It's actually supposed to be based off of an anime character. There's an anime called Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt. It's a comedy anime.
No, it doesn't exist.
Lint likes that anime.
I love that anime.
Yeah. And there's a side character in it called Fastener, and that's his face actually. The background,
yes,
the actual sun, the actual background is my design, but the teeth and the eyes are his face.
Dude, anime is fucking degenerate, my dude. It's fucking postmodernist.
What does it look like to you, Lyrical?
To me, it looks like one of those Indian chakra wheels, you know, like.
It's like a Neo ink blot. It's whatever you see.
Yeah.
It's whatever you want it to be.
Dude, that is literally what a postmodernist would say.
A vagina with teeth. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't. But once somebody said it, it just went away.
What is important is that it's not a six-pointed star.
Oh.
Because then the internet would get upset.
I've never actually counted. I've never actually counted, but I'm going to guess that there are 1,488.
We must secure the future of our people and whatever it is. I don't fucking know.
And something about white children, my dude.
I'm not an alt-right guy. I just thought that would be funny. And it
guys.
Filled cock, my dude.
What?
Can I have a chance to speak? Just wondering.
Yes, you can have a chance, and here it is. Your chance has come. Speaketh.
Well, please.
And there it goes.
When it comes to last night's,
no, go ahead.
When it actually comes to like last night events, like I'm just like conflicted right now. Like, as found out, these people, like the guy who actually did the sniping was actually military trained.
Yeah, he was in the army for 6 years. Yeah.
That's because like a 500-meter snipe. Yes, you need some really hard training to actually do something like that.
Hmm.
That and like I want to know what kind of gun he used, by the way.
Probably one that shoots people.
Yeah. No. It
Yeah.
seemed like some kind of military rifle.
Dude, I know what gun he used. He used a high-capacity clip baby-killing assault killing machine, my dude.
Yeah, with fascism-tipped bullets.
Yeah, and with
That
a
is
foldable
hilarious.
tactical, strategic, logistical buttstock, my dude.
Layman, sorry. Bad German.
Yeah. So I'm to be honest with you guys, I really don't know what happened last night. So somebody's gonna have to fill me in.
Okay, well, basically there was a Black Lives Matter protest in
I
Dallas,
know like
Texas.
that much, and that's about it.
And 4 shooters took up positions on a parking garage. Well, actually, one of them was down on the ground, and they just started sniping cops. And from the video, the way these guys were moving and the tactics they were using, the way they were using cover, they looked military trained. And well, one of our friends, Phalanx Unhinged, he's another YouTuber. He was in the army, if I remember correctly. And he took one look at the video and he was like, yeah, these guys were army or something. They had some kind of training. And he turned out to be right. That one of these guys was in the army for 6 years.
Huh.
And again, sorry, an AR-15 can do the job. It was some kind of snipe, like full-fledged sniper rifle.
Well, I mean, it depends. It depends
on the training.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the training, and it depends on what kind of modifications you would have on the gun itself, because that's the thing about the AR-15 or any similar weapon.
Any carbine rifle, really.
Yeah, it's very modular, you know. So you could put a longer barrel on it, and that would increase the range.
Yeah.
Technically, if you could get access to it, and you know what, since these guys were ex-military, they could have gotten they could have gotten 5.56 ammunition instead of 223, and 5.56 has a bit more power behind it than 223 does.
Dude, wait, since when is the AR chambered for 23, my dude?
Well, what's that, Layman?
Can it be modified?
I'm just asking since when the AR-15 is chambered for the .223.
Well, technically it can fire the 5.56. The AR-15 is the civilian variant. Like the military version of that would be like an M4 or something, or something like that. But technically, both rounds are about the same size, and you could fire a 5.56 from a civilian version, or vice versa. But if you're using the civilian version and you're loading it with 5.56, it could potentially shorten the life of the receiver, because it's a higher chamber pressure with that round, because it's got a more powerful load behind it.
So do we know why they did this at all yet, or were these guys actually killed? Were they
Yes,
killed?
it was.
Lint actually.
One of them was.
One of them was blown up.
Yeah.
One of them got blown up?
Yeah.
Yeah. With a robot.
Wait, seriously? Somebody got.
Well, come on, guys, let Lint
With a
talk.
No, they sent a police robot in to like a bomb bot, and they were just like, fuck it, and blew him up because he wasn't gonna give himself up.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because they
that is pretty awesome.
Because apparently they had I mean, these guys were like a squad. You know, this was like clearly a calculated thing that they had planned out. And they must not have had a lot of time to do it, because you know there was all the media outrage over the recent police shootings, and you know, within the span of a couple of days they must have planned this out. I mean, I can't imagine.
It could have been that they had been wanting to sort of launch an attack, and like with many people who premeditate these sort of things, I'd have to imagine the planning process would be far longer than even the triggering event, right? So they used the opportunity of the two recent sort of Alton Sterling and the other, his name slips my mind, but they use that as the reasoning to do it now, but they could have easily been planning to do something out of an event. I don't know.
But you know what actually kind of catches me also? Like, these guys could actually pass the Switzerland like background check.
So do you think? I wonder. The thing is, like, obviously there's a reason why they did it, but I don't think there's any way for us to know, especially if they blew themselves up, obviously.
Well,
No, we do know. We do know.
Do we know? Oh.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is
Yes, we do. They hit
trying
away
to say
people.
I was trying to say a minute ago. Lint actually sent me an archive, page archive of one of the shooter's Facebook pages. The guy's name is Mika Xavier Johnson.
Yeah, that's the one that died. That's the one they killed.
I thought that was the one they took in.
No, that's the one they killed. Pretty sure that's the one they killed.
Well, either way, the guy had a bunch of Black Lives Matter and Black Power stuff and shit like that, like on his Facebook
I've seen
page.
it also.
What race were these guys?
Black.
Of course, black. Like
Yeah, they
me.
were all black. Here, Dallas shooting suspect Mika Xavier Johnson had rifles, bomb-making materials in his home. Police say.
See, something like me.
Suspected gun. Here, I'm gonna screen share this here. Suspected gunman in an attack on police officers in Dallas, which left 5 cops dead and 7 injured, had bomb-making materials, ballistic vests, and rifles in his house. Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlings described the gunman as a mobile shooter who wrote manifestos on how to shoot and move. This is the guy who was in the army for 6 years. Oh, you're right, Lent. He was killed by. This is the guy that they killed by detonating the bomb.
Yep, he was.
Private first class deployed to Afghanistan from November 2013 to July 2014, according to his service record. Carnegie said it was aware that Johnson was very pro-black. He said he wasn't militant and wasn't aware of any of his personal beliefs or affiliations he had with potentially pro-black groups. Okay, so this is ABC News, just for the record. All of the mainstream outlets like ABC and CBS have done a good job of not mentioning the words Black Lives Matter in relation to any of this.
Because if they basically did, the gig would be up. The gig is pretty much up at the moment.
Oh wait, here it actually does say black. This article does say the suspect wanted to kill officers and expressed anger for Black Lives Matter. But I should note that this does not match the statement that the Dallas police chief specifically said. If you go find the video of what the Dallas police chief said, he said that the guy told them he wanted to kill officers and kill white people, but specifically white police officers.
I've heard that also. He did.
So
Well,
to anybody who may be listening who isn't sure that this had anything to do with Black Lives Matter, maybe this guy isn't officially part of the group, but that's the thing about Black Lives Matter is it's not really like a well-organized thing. It's just sort of like whether you support it, you say you support it or not, you know? So.
Right. Well,
liberals are hilarious.
I hope that we learn that violence isn't the answer. We have the ability to put our opinions out there and gather people that agree with us, but violence isn't the way to do it. And I really think the empowerment of the individual to help themselves and help other people is the answer to a lot of the problems that we have. And
agreed.
Even if you go out and you shoot people, what is that going to do? And you know, these cops are just trying to do their job and survive and make money and feed their families. And,
yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's the thing I find really ironic about it is that Cog and I were on a stream with Naked Ape last night, covering this whole thing like as it was happening. And the thing I find interesting is that there was actually a guy who at one point was a suspect. He was someone who was part of the protest group.
Yeah.
Black guy who was open carrying a semi-automatic rifle and
But he gave it up.
Yeah,
but he gave it up. He basically flags down a police car. The police car, like, just, you know, and he said, "Look, I've been the one who's been, you know, they're saying that I've done the shooting. Can you take me in?" So they've taken him in. They didn't even handcuff him. They just took him straight in. He doesn't get shot. Oh no! Wait a minute. Aren't the police racist? Aren't they supposed to be? It's just
right. Yeah. I mean, like Cog
he's the one who is seen as a target right now, as a person who is shooting the police. Surely, if the police were as hostile as people are making out, they'd be like, "Get on the ground! Get on the." They didn't. No.
Right.
Down.
He was able to talk to him and turn his. He was legally open carrying his rifle. Yes. He was able to turn his weapon in to the police, and they didn't kill him. They didn't even manhandle him. They treated each other with mutual respect. This is how people have to deal with the police.
Yes.
You know, Like, people need to remember that police. My uncle was a cop for 25 years, and I'm not a big fan of cops.
I know a few cops.
You know what people get pissed off with? It's because they're so fucking. They think they're so fucking precious. It's like, why are you bothering my day? Just let him fucking give him his. It's his job, man. He's got to do his fucking job. Allow him to do his fucking job. That's all it is. He'll take nothing out of your time if you've done nothing fucking wrong, will it?
Right.
It really won't.
And not only that, but even if they're in the wrong, and even if what you think they're doing is bullshit, and I've had my share of run-ins with cops, and I thought it was bullshit, but you're not making it easier for yourself if you act like a fucking douchebag and you cause a problem, because this person probably just wants to go home to their family. They're not trying to have a shitty day. They don't wake up in the morning thinking, boy, I can't wait to kill somebody today.
And at the bottom, working. Let's be honest. In the area these cops are working, if you probably looked at statistics and you looked at the actual danger of doing the job, it probably is a more dangerous area.
Yeah.
And so that being said, these people know when they're becoming a cop that they're getting into this. It's just. People got to give these cops a little more credit. I think all the hatred towards the police has been a little much. Now, the thing is, we could have something else. We could have a different system where it wasn't the police force wasn't run by the state. It was run by private organizations or something like this, and maybe that would be better. But when you have a state organization like this, it might have some hiccups, or it might not.
To be fair, the thing is.
I
know this is going to sound weird. In the UK, I don't know if you've ever had anything like this in America, but in the UK, we used to have a thing where people used to prank call the fire brigades to turn up so that they could literally just jump them and beat them up.
Oh wow! Yeah.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, that used to be a thing that happened in a couple of areas of England where they'd ring them up, they'd turn up, and there'd be no fire, but then they'd just get jumped by a lot of people. It's the weird, and firefighters. You're thinking, are you fucking serious? But people are just like, it's like so anti-authoritarian. It's just like, dude, they're not even. They're there to. If they're telling you what to do, it's to save your fucking life. And they're trying to save. They do it with paramedics as well. Paramedics, I think it was as well. So they'd ring, and paramedics get beaten up.
See, I just find that bizarre. I find that I do find that really bizarre because, on the one hand, at least I could understand to some degree because I don't really like police all that much. I don't like state power all that much, and I can understand where someone might be coming from if they don't like the police and they have a problem with the police and what they do, because they do some things that I think are bullshit. But when it comes to firefighters and paramedics, it's like these guys are doing nothing but putting their asses on the line to help people. They're the paramedics and the firefighters don't go out arresting people and using force against people. They're just risking themselves to help other people.
Is it potentially that the firefighters or paramedics were seen to have assisted some, the untouchables? I'll say in the UK or something like that. But I know that the UK has a lot of particularly issues, especially in Northern Ireland or other sort of gang-related.
It's more like just mob culture. It's it's if the police get too busy in England, and we've had moments of that where we had a lot of rioting the last year. And I was in Manchester, and I literally you walking back it's one of those weird things. When I see a crowd of people run, I don't run in the same direction. I don't know. I'm a bit of a weirdo. I just don't really give a shit. I think. Because in my head I'm like they're trying to rob the shops, right? And I'm going to work. I couldn't give a fuck, and I've gone to work, and work's gone. Look, we're not open today, and then I've had to walk back through the riot again. But all it is just people trying to break in because there's no police around because the police were all over the fucking country. It was ridiculous. It was just, and yeah, obviously they went crazy. And that's what happened because everyone got it out on social media that they were going to go and do it, and everyone went and did it, and it became a riot. A lot of TVs got robbed, and then the police were like, "We're going to CCTV everyone, and then come to your houses." And yeah.
What's going on with what's going on with Ad?
Oh yeah, I blocked him.
Why? Why did you do that?
I don't know.
Give me a ban.
I just did.
You gotta understand that Ad is kind of an acquired taste.
Okay.
He thinks.
I don't have a problem with that. I just did it.
Here's the problem. Sorry, go ahead.
He thinks that literally everything that's happened since the end of World War II is because of postmodernism.
That's bullcrap. That's
And
just
don't
someone
get me wrong, I think postmodernism is kind of shit, but he takes it to like where a neo-Nazi would be concerned about the Jews, Ad is concerned about postmodernism. Everything is postmodernism. Everything is cultural relativism and all that stuff. And I mean, some of that does play into a lot of what we're talking about here, but
Okay.
at the same time,
sorry,
I feel like
I'm
it's
sorry I
important.
blocked your friend.
Yeah, it's important not to. It's important not to infringe on anybody's speech, especially somebody who disagrees with you like that.
Oh, I don't even care what he thinks.
Well, he disagrees with me, and so I think it's important not to.
Oh, to make sure that he has an opportunity to say stuff he wants.
But guys,
that's kind of like the liberal in me, I guess, or the libertarian, whatever you want to say.
Like, to me, like, that's just completely conspiratorial as fuck. I'm sorry. It is completely paranoid, completely delusional. I'm sorry.
For what? What?
Like, actually, everything is postmodernism? Not really. Like, Sweden, probably.
Yeah,
But
what is modernism anyway? Is
I
that a
don't
thing?
know. What is the meaning of modern? Like, today?
Patriarchy.
The patriarchy is nothing but a stupid conspiracy theory created by a bunch of cultural Marxists.
Oh.
Again, like a lot of cultural Marxism does exist, and you can actually prove a lot of cultural Marxism. Again, you can call cultural Marxism, but cultural relativism is kind of harder to actually define and point out.
Postmodernism is a little bit too broad a brush to define. It's a little bit too broad a term to define. But cultural Marxism is included within it. If that helps at all.
Yeah, I agree. It does help a lot.
Well, I can't unblock Ad right now, but I don't think he's permanently blocked. So whatever.
There may be a
time. What?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has the right to say whatever they want, no matter how foul or unnecessary.
Yeah, and why did you block him?
Sorry, guys.
Oh no, I wasn't making a comment about him.
Can I say?
There's not always a reason for things.
I was going to say I found one of these news reports. It is from the Daily Mail, unfortunately, but it's got like a video footage of the horrifying moments. Firefighters called into an incident on a street in Leeds, had fireworks shot at them by youths. So, video's been released by West Yorkshire, and it's just got says this.
So much for gun control.
They get called out there, and then these youths will just be there and just fire fireworks at the fucking firefighters.
So much for gun control.
Sorry, I'll send you a link to it if you want to look at the pictures and shit.
I want to see it. But seriously, as I've said before, so much for gun control there.
No, it's Daily Mail. I fucking hate going to these places for citation, but it actually has got the pictures and stuff, so it's fair enough. But it's these things like I see these things sometimes in the news, and you're just like, God, we have so many just little dicks in the fucking in England there are just little dicks, and they're all they just hang around on street corners, and they do just cause chaos and shit, and they don't give a fuck, and it's one of those things. I'm sure they'll grow up and grab it, but some of them don't, and they grow up and they go into gangs and stuff like that, and it's just they get a gang mentality and they don't give a fuck, and why should I give a shit? I've not got my GCSEs and stuff, and people can they go down that path. Some people can get to a point where they go, you know what? I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get myself a few things to get myself a job or something. Or you can go to college and get yourself a couple of GCSEs. It will at least help you to get a job in the future. And my brother Luke did the same thing. He had GCSEs when he left school, and then he sorted himself out. I did.
For me, I need to actually fix up some of my CAPE grades so I can actually go off to college. Like CAPE is for the Caribbean.
What's the topic? What are you guys talking about?
Like GSEC and CAPE.
What's that?
GSEC is like advanced examinations for like the UK, and CAPE is like advanced examinations for the Caribbean.
Like SAT type of thing?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. If you're actually in the Caribbean, the most important test you could ever take in your life is actually CSEC/CAPE, because they basically determine if you can get into college or not, or determine if you're able to get a job in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing too. I think definitely we take for granted a lot of the systems that we have, and I think that's partly what's going on with this thing with the police and stuff. I think people are basically not giving credit where it's due. I mean, the police do a lot to help people, and you know, we do have systems that do stuff that help people get in situations where they can take care of themselves financially and stuff like that. So I know a lot of the stuff, a lot of the conversations we have are kind of looking down on the system to a degree, but the system does do a lot to help too. So it's all about balance.
Can I just ask a question? The American system for policing, is it different, say, than here in Canada, where we have sort of different levels of sort of police in the sense that we have the RCMP, that's the full national police force.
The Mounties?
Yeah, we have
the
something.
Mounties.
Yeah, we have local police, we have statewide police, and then we have federal police.
Okay.
Like,
You
if I'm
also
right-
have like other cases like reservation
county-
polices and
I got
stuff.
county sheriff where I'm at.
I guess that would replace the municipal police force then, eh?
In
Like,
Anguilla,
because-
we actually have a municipal police force actually owned by the governor, not really the chief minister in the parliament, like in Anguilla, because we're not really independent.
Okay. Yeah, because I can speak to in Canada, there's different levels. Obviously, there's different police forces everywhere. Like if you go to Montreal, the police force is considered very corrupt, but the local police force where I am, the city police force, very good with things like outreach and community sort of involvement and like fundraising and all various stuff like that. Like there's very positive sort of view of the police versus the RCMP, which is considered extremely corrupt. There's constantly exposés and former RCMP people talking about the cover-ups and all the various stuff that are going on within the RCMP. It's just so it's sort of like at the federal level, the police force is kind of just all over the place. But like sometimes at the local level, the smaller police forces can actually be rather like beneficial. And
Right, because they're all their own little smaller systems, right? So at the local level, there's a system, then at the state level, there's a system, and then federal. And so, yeah, these smaller local systems can actually oftentimes work quite well, even though bigger ones are not working. And I think that's something to look at. So, yeah.
The American people generally don't differentiate when it comes to thinking about the police. They generally they have the same general feeling of local municipal police, state police, and federal police. They don't really differentiate. This is corrupt. Okay, this isn't corrupt. They don't really think of it that way. They
Most
just think,
Americans haven't had to deal with the federal police. Like not every American is having to deal with the DEA or the FBI coming knocking on their door.
Well,
yeah,
but there's this general authority, not authoritarian, just anti-authority streak amongst not just young people, but the American people in general.
I wanna be the minority. Welcome back, Edgy.
Fuck the police.
There is, I'd say, a lot of the stress though of the RCMP comes in the fact that the way that the system is set up, they oftentimes in areas where, like you were talking about, like county police replacing like larger municipal centers having their own police forces and then county police, the RCMP essentially steps in and sort of, instead of having a municipal police force for like a town of like 150 people or a rural area of 150 people, the only police force is the national police force, which they'll be locally deployed and they don't live necessarily in the area that they're deployed in, and I guess that it causes a lot of issues, especially as well as certain like native sort of clashes with police are often with the national police forces. So.
They gotta say.
Hey guys, can I ask a question?
Straight from the underground, a young nigga.
Edgy, no.
AG, if you play a song like that, basically they'll block the whole hangout. So.
It's only a couple seconds.
A problem that you. Sorry.
Yeah, even if it's. Yeah, they'll totally take it down. So.
Copyright.
A problem that you may have with local police, local tight-knit communities is that there will be. There's more likely to be personal. There's more likely to be personal bias when arresting people because the police officer is more likely to know the person
There will be blood.
That is oftentimes the justification used as well for bringing in police forces from like from or across the country and deploying them on like shift based sort of thing. And I would agree that actually that is a good point to make, but there's also certain aspects like I was saying about community involvement and you know, like outreach programs and stuff, which really has to be done from like a local sort of way. I guess it would work larger in of course larger populations, but yeah.
Yeah, I live in a state where
wonder.
there were many small towns with less than 500 people, and there's a main street with a courthouse, and
whose dog
and
is
everybody
yipping?
knows everybody else.
What happened to your dog?
Yeah, that my dog is in a kennel right now, and he doesn't like it in there. I apologize for that.
Okay, for me, what about like the SWAT team and all those like those paramilitary task force? Like in Angola, we actually have one. Like when shit really gets bad, but they're not called out so much, to my knowledge. Like
Some
what,
interesting stuff, guys.
like the SWAT team, like a SWAT team. What is the equivalent to SWAT in Canada?
Like in Canada, we like we do have we have SWAT teams for sure. I guess if you wanted to see like sort of some of the actually, if you want to hilariously see sort of events that, of what I was talking about, like the different level of police forces, there was an event in October of last year, I think, in which this shooter actually was able to storm Parliament Hill and come within like a few, like right up close to the sitting prime minister and everything like that, and the miscommunication between the federal police force, the sort of local Parliament Hill security force, which was actually very slow in mobilizing their like heavier firepower sort of thing, and they essentially brought him down with handguns and everything, like the metal detector staffers sort of exchanged gunfire, right? But the SWAT teams
At least they
definitely
had
exist
guns.
and they deploy, yeah. But yeah, well, obviously they have guns. There's sort of an idea that Canada doesn't have guns. It's not really the case. We have gun regulation in which you have to go out, take a course, become certified, then you can purchase firearms. But once you have that, like it's called a possession and acquisitions license. Purchasing a firearm is very much similar to in the United States. You walk into a gun store or a hunting store and you say, "I want that one," and you buy it. Assuming you have
Actually, in Anguilla, by the way,
and then you're
guys, by the way,
and then you're like, can I also have five round magazines, please?
Well, yeah, you can't actually
guys, you know what's
load
kinda
the
sad?
weapon.
Like not even like the liberal left in the United States will support Canada's system. One another, like when mass shootings actually start happening under that one, again they won't support it.
Like, you mean like mass shootings? Like,
Yeah, they will not support that system either.
well, we used to have the long gun registry, and that was abolished under the previous government. But like we do have less shootings in Canada, but we also have a much smaller population base to draw on as well.
Yes.
But
oh, by the way, sorry.
I wouldn't actually go as far as saying that gun control stops mass shootings. I don't think it works the same in Canada because we're so close to the United States. It's so easy to smuggle guns from the U.S. into Canada.
But doesn't happen so much.
Sorry?
It's so easy, yet it doesn't happen so much.
Yeah, it's easy, but it doesn't happen as much, and I mean, it could be because of the gun safety in beforehand, and there are like police background checks. In order to renew your possession and acquisition license, you need to continue like doing background checks, etc. Be a good standing, etc. So yeah, it doesn't happen as much in Canada. The mass shootings.
And also like if I'm right, do you know in Anguilla it's actually easier to get like it's actually extremely easy to get a driver's license compared to the States. You don't really have to go to any long like classes. You just have to study from the highway code, just do the written test, then you just go on the road and get your license.
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple.
But like Anguilla it's a tiny country, right? Small population base. Like
13,000.
13,000. Yeah. So like it's very very small. I think for smaller populations, it's very easy to point to like Australia with 28 million people and say, look, there's never been a mass shooting there, but there's also a
They have
fraction
no
of the
land.
population of the United States.
Also, they don't have any land borders. Like, it's
That
much
is
harder to
what.
smuggle stuff, things in
Also,
also.
you might say that the United States is sort of a gun culture. I mean,
That
I know that's a
is.
meme. I
It
know that's a
is.
meme, but it really is. And if you
It
honestly,
makes
obviously, if you increase gun control, gun deaths will not go down. And if you increase gun sales, gun deaths will not go down.
Well,
My
yeah, it's you don't you don't fix it. Yeah.
my official stance on guns is essentially fuck it. You
Well,
know,
I don't think guns are dangerous. I just think that we need to help people so they don't feel like they need to use a gun to hurt somebody. We need
Of
to
course.
There is
I
we need
prefer
to
to
have
go after
mental
the
health for
motives.
people and stuff.
I prefer to go after the motives and to
Yeah,
get rid of
same.
the
Yeah.
ideologies that cause people to want to murder. Because
Agree.
then that way
Yes.
the only people who kill in a proper world would be just fucking people who lose their minds, which you
Yeah.
can't really help.
Well, I mean
Right.
that's really the important thing is that it's not the tool that's used, it's the motivation.
Yeah.
I mean even within the U.S. where guns are readily available, we've had attacks that didn't involve the use of guns at all. And
Often.
I hate to be like 9/11 and all that, but no guns were used in the commission of the 9/11 attacks.
That was impressive.
So that's a perfect example, or even the Boston Marathon bombing, or any bombing that's
Well,
ever
the
occurred in the
shootout,
U.S.
yes. The shootout with the Tsarnaevs, yes, they had guns, but they didn't use it.
They didn't use them for the attack themselves. They used them when they were fleeing the police.
Yeah. That was
Hmm.
interesting in itself.
Well, I hate to bring up the example of Paris, but Paris is an example where the guns were supplied by criminal
Belgium.
gangs, and drug smuggling gangs, essentially, that out of Belgium and et cetera. Like the firearms essentially are in Europe
People.
because of criminal organizations to begin with, not in the hands of civilians. But that doesn't stop terrorists from being able to purchase them. So,
But think about
or
this, no, when I was actually talking to Lenny, I've actually found out, Belgium is a really messed up place. It's a really messed up place. Like, you could easily get a illicit firearm, but not that much, but it haven't been that much sad mass shootings there. The last major mass shooting was around 2010.
But again, there's a smaller population in Belgium. I mean, I hate to sort of bring up the smaller sample size can't indicate trend sort of idea of things, but in the United States, there's a much larger population, and as well, there's sort of harkening back to way back in the conversation tonight, where we were talking about there's a lot of poverty in the United States. The United States is considered one of the largest economies in the world, but there is a discrepancy in there's a great deal of there are areas in the United States that look like the third world.
Like, you
It's
know
just
why?
I can
Socialism.
vouch for that. I live in Youngstown, Ohio, and we're basically Detroit.
Yeah,
And
Detroit is another
Anguilla,
good example.
I lived in a place in
Anguilla,
Pennsylvania that was exactly like that. It was like a slum. Every other house was abandoned.
and Anguilla is not that bad. Like,
Yeah.
most houses are pretty good.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean there are a lot of factors involved, and that's the thing that people don't understand. Is I feel like
of course.
I feel like anti-gun advocates or gun control advocates or whatever you want to call them, they basically see it in terms of more guns equals more gun murder and fewer guns equals less gun murder.
I agree.
But it doesn't. It just doesn't.
Yeah,
bear
correlation
out.
doesn't prove causation, right?
Well, yeah, and I
Like-
mean, and in some cases we can see the opposite of that correlation. Like, for instance, a country like Mexico, where the gun control is extremely strict. It's not in any capacity legal for the average person to obtain a gun, and yet they have a shit ton of murder, and specifically gun murder.
Well, and it should
People
also
trying
be
to
cited.
I will just chalk up for one point of Mexico is as corrupt as the main government is and as awful as some areas are, there are some areas of Mexico that are very affluent and very well off, and it's rather striking actually if you sort of see.
Just don't leave
But
the resort.
I won't try to like say, but yes, Mexico is a very bizarre place, but it's sort of
Well,
it's similar to.
There are beautiful beaches on there. Just don't leave the resort, or the locals will machete your clavicle.
Well, yeah, and guys, to give an example, in Japan, there are people who get killed all the time by knife, even though you can't have a gun in Japan.
Yeah, the gun death rate is like 0%. Because they're not allowed to have guns.
Yeah, so they have no guns, but there are knife murders all the time.
Well, I thought that the
and
death
the gangs,
rate
the
in Japan was so
Yakuza,
low because
the Yakuza
everybody's
does
jacking
have.
off.
Yeah, all the Yakuza, they have guns and stuff, you know.
Yeah, they're scared of it, by the way, because of how hard it. Nah, Japan's an island, so they can easily like manage your border, and like to try to snap out stuff in much easier.
Yeah, because they're an island. Yeah.
People need to understand, like gun control does not work in Europe. Stop deluding yourselves on this. Like in Germany, like a few weeks back, they actually managed to find like over 300 like military grade rifles.
Yeah, I
The
did a video in which I basically spend 10 minutes listing all of the major gun terrorist attacks. Not even all gun deaths, but gun terrorist attacks in Europe. And it took me 10 minutes to go through the entire list, just from 2011 to 2016. So no, gun control doesn't fucking work.
Stop. No, it just gun control only sells you the illusion of safety, which is a big problem with Europe. I want the Europeans to actually think like, we have less gun deaths, but hey, you're rich. That's completely horrific.
Well, even in Canada, you know, there's a sense of it's a gun-free sort of place, but a great deal of population do own firearms just legally. They've gone through the hurdles and purchased firearms legally. Obviously, you have to have a gun lock if you're transporting it outside of your premises or an RCMP gun range and stuff like that. Like there are limitations, like if you don't have a gun lock on, your gun can be confiscated from you by police officers with guns. So it's, you know, and it's kind of, there is that element to it. But I mean, I live in an area that is quite affluent and et cetera like that. But right nearby, because I live in the capital city, there are areas, and I remember specifically from back when Canada was still much more involved in the war in Afghanistan, there was an area that was cutting metal, specifically just pieces of metals that would be assembled on the armored vehicles. And there was a very specific cut for one particular part of the vehicle, all classified what the material was, etc. like that. And because I was in a robotics course, we got to go in, but passing the guards, they were fully decked out with like M4's combat gear, like just walking by like a bunch of soldiers. And so, but even still, like I wasn't like, oh my god, first time I've ever seen a gun before, because it was sort of just, you know, it's you know, and they were private security too. They weren't soldiers, despite it being government contract.
Because you know why? Those things are like top secret, and you need a really good defense to actually fight against. So anybody trying to actually steal anything.
Exactly.
Here's something like, for example, in the Caribbean. Let me tell you straight. Like, for Angola, gun control does not work, not at all. But we don't have that much gun deaths, because you know why? Gangsters are mostly like focused on certain. They mostly focus on like certain targets. They don't really shoot up people like a mass shooter does. Like every single Caribbean island is afraid of gun control. Always remember that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just silly. I mean, the real problem is human beings, not guns.
Right. Yeah, the headhunters in the Caribbean don't need guns to kill you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we don't. We can just use them.
Well, I mean, if the issue is humans, then maybe the same idea of the self-driving car can be applied. Why don't we just have self-regulating guns? Guns with AIs?
Oh, no.
That'd be hilarious. Oh, God.
No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The problem with that... The problem with that is that it places a barrier on... It makes the use of a given firearm highly situational, like this smart gun shit. Let's say I have a smart gun. let's
No,
say
I was alluding to the failure of the smart gun. Yes.
Right.
You pull a trigger and the gun says.
Well, I mean, but here's the thing. It's two fundamentally different things because the self-driving cars in a combined 2 million miles have had like one accident that was actually
200 million. 200 million.
200 million? Okay, so that illustrates my point even more.
Yeah.
Things have driven millions of miles, and they've only had one accident that was actually the fault of the car. The rest of the time...
well, actually, that accident specifically, it still comes down to driver error in a sense. This was on the Tesla car, right? The one that kind of ran through the tractor trailer.
It was a Google car.
Oh, it was a Google car.
I remember.
Yeah.
It seems. I think the specific one that I was referring to, this one, the driver, like even in self-driving cars, the driver is supposed to have their hands on the wheel still and still be attentive, because there are particular conditions where a self-driving car, maybe it's snowing, you can't see the roads, or etc. There could be an outage, and the driver is meant to be there as an attentive secondary, because human decision-making skills still are better in some circumstances than self-driving cars. So I'd just like to add that as far as self-driving cars are concerned, I sort of welcome it in some degree, but I'm also sort of torn because of the implications towards the transport industry and a lot of jobs that will be destroyed by the introduction of, like in factories where the autos essentially just move all the equipment without humans ever even being in the room.
Right.
And like,
but I mean that need for human intervention means that let's say all the semi trucks become self-driving. You still need a qualified truck driver in that cab in case something goes wrong with the computer.
Well,
the best example is in how in the grocery stores now they have self-checkouts, but there's still people that are working there and are cashiers.
Oh yeah, in fact that arguably
just because of possible losses of jobs. I think that it should
be
put forward.
Right. I mean, it arguably creates different kinds of jobs because because with any kind of mechanization there needs to be. But I mean, there's still going to be some degree of replacement where like Logic's example of the self-checkout things is like every time I go to the store and try to use a self-checkout thing, something goes wrong with it, and I have to call a human being over to who knows the pin code or whatever to fix it. Those things are shit.
But like for me with a smartphone,
so are the first smartphones compared.
For me, like with a smartphone, it can actually be extremely dangerous because you know what? You'll be able to hack it. Imagine this, like you are concealed carry with a smart gun. Then someone tried to rob a store. But here's the thing they actually have like a blocker that actually blocks the signal from the gun. They actually have a signal with the gun, so you can't actually engage it. That would make the situation completely deadly.
Yeah, I mean that is a good point because as it stands, guns are entirely mechanical. There's no electronics in them unless you attach like an electronic sight or something like that. But the operation of the gun itself is not going to be affected by any kind of like hacking tool or EMP or something like that. Whereas with a car, and this is a common thing that I hear people say about self-driving cars is, oh, well, what if somebody hacks it? And what people don't understand is that pretty much every car made in the last like 10, 15 years already has a computer in it, and it actually is already possible to quote unquote hack a car.
It's already possible to clone. There is a real problem with people cloning the frequency of remote. So if you use a remote to lock or unlock your car, and it's a very fast process to clone a radio signal now. They just have to be within like close proximity with like a cell phone.
Oh wow!
It need to be encrypted. It happens to these signals in the future.
And there's easy ways to break into the car as well and access the control panels. But what I will say on the self-driving cars, like, I think there is like a lot of people use the justification of human drivers cause deaths in a sense of human error leads to so many traffic fatalities per year, and the self-driving cars are this much better than human drivers ever could be. And all I can say is if that's the justification for completely removing, because there has to be something said to what kind of behavior will that entail to the drivers? Like what will they be doing in the car? They need, like, I figure it should be better because there already exists some safety features like cars that will brake faster than the human perception can react, right? Because there is a delay of human perception. Sometimes you can't brake fast enough, and there's already vehicles that brake in time for that sort of thing. And I think if cars go the route of only intervening when the human driver can't react fast enough, and there's always the human override on the vehicle, like similar to the way essentially a fighter plane works, is that the human pilot is only in there to tell the plane to go left, but his control of the plane isn't intuitive. The computer of the plane is making the micro adjustments to continue the flight. And
I don't think it's actually because the internet.
Oh, so what you're saying is we should use it to mitigate against human error, not to replace humans.
Exactly.
That'd be a bad idea.
So just like putting it in cars to brake, or to like say a driver starts hydroplaning on the highway and they panic and start like ripping on the steering wheel, which will only make it worse, sort of thing. The car will instead recognize that it's hydroplaning and have its own ability to make fast corrections. But the driver's still in there to also potentially assist in the vehicle. I don't know. I mean, the system will have to be worked out in a certain way. Like if somebody's trying to drive deliberately, like off the road for some reason, and the vehicle tries to stop them from turning off the road, but they're actually trying to get off the road for like a very specific reason. I don't know.
Right. So yeah, we could make it in some way that it helps prevent against death, meaning that we basically do what we meant to do, which is to make driving safer instead of replacing human jobs. But then again, if you have to pay people, that's the thing. These companies, they want to make profit at all costs. So
I agree.
Yeah,
The idea of the smart gun just seems absolutely dreadful to me. Just the idea of a gun that you can shoot, and depending on who you're shooting, the gun will say, "Sorry, I can't do that." I'm
afraid I can't do that, Dave.
That is just a recipe for disaster.
They're going to create a gun that can only shoot white males.
St. Clair, you're breaking up really badly. Try just hitting refresh and rejoining, and that should fix it.
You sounded fine to me.
Imagine someone actually managed to perfect railgun technology, and you start seeing mass shootings with nails instead of bullets.
But by the same token of what St. Clair was saying, my fear is that some of the proposals I've heard for smart guns would be like some kind of fingerprint scanner, where when you're holding the gun, that's the only way that it would be able to fire. And that is
to trick that.
That is a bad idea.
Cell phones too that can easily be broken with the fingerprint scanner.
But why put that block on it? Like, let's say, this is the example I was going to use, is let's say you and I are hanging out, Lint, and somebody breaks into the place we're hanging out in, and we need to use my gun that has my fingerprint coded to it, and I get shot. Now I can't operate the gun. You need to use it, but you can't because the fingerprint scanner won't let you.
So we have to make one that you can scan multiple people.
True, but no.
Or we could
never do that.
Completely disregards the whole point of the smart gun. That's only supposed to allow the owner of the gun, to use it.
Well, right. I mean, but that's the problem I have with it, is that, on the one hand, it could be a security measure of, like, someone you don't want to use the gun would be prevented from using it. But what if someone who's on your side, so to speak, needs to use it? Like,
well, yeah, let's say, it's a rifle that stays at home, and someone breaks into the house, and the owner of the rifle is gone, and let's say the wife or the child, or the child. Remember the video you did, Edgy, with the 10-year-old?
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that.
What if? Right.
That'd be a bad idea.
Well, who's to say that you couldn't have like a 20 user interface or a 10 user?
No. That'd be a bad idea.
But I mean, I have yet to hear a compelling argument for
all your family members. They could all access it if needed. And there could also be different level, I mean, there's also...
Well, either way, I still think it's stupid with the
levels where certain people could access it only in crisis times. different ways.
Password, like your
Then
iPhone.
how reliable technology too? Like we have
Okay.
a fingerprint scanner to get into our house and the door, and
It would seem almost to the point where, like, just to talk to what Lyrical was saying, just that, like, you know, if it was able to recognize, you know, dangerous or life-threatening situations or et cetera like that, like, that's a pretty impressive piece of technology.
Right.
Of
Well,
gun, like AI programming to figure out.
What about like gun keys?
We're at right now.
What about like keys?
I see things going like home monitoring systems going to understanding crisis level situations. You know, and so like when a home goes into like a smart home goes into a crisis situation, then you know maybe younger level children would have access to the guns. You know, I mean it makes sense to a certain degree.
No, but how should the child be?
Well,
that would be wouldn't that be an external system communicating with the gun?
Does it matter
What
how
happens
old the
if-
actual child is? Surely the
I'm
gun will still
talking
work.
hypothetically, let's say 16, maybe.
Whoa, another Draco.
Man,
What?
man, no. Hey Draco, how is it?
Draco.
Frost Draco.
Too many Malfoys in here.
Oh,
Somebody
What's a
had
Malfoy?
to.
I
Somebody had
predate
to.
Harry Potter.
You know,
Thank you.
I'm talking hypothetically. You know, I mean that's technology that we haven't quite reached yet.
Yeah, well, I was just saying that what if in the communication, because like you were saying, it was a smart home sort of system. What if and so I'm assuming there's some kind of communication between the gun and the smart home system.
Well, yeah, they'd all be.
But what happens if there's like a breakdown of like the wireless card on like the gun or something, and it
Of
can't
course,
communicate
that's
properly
what
with
they
the
don't work.
How would a breakdown actually happen? I mean, how would that actually be possible?
Oh, like right now,
Yes,
like
it's
my
all
smart
jammers.
TV is broken down and can't
Hey,
communicate
guys.
to the wireless with the substandard Wi-Fi card.
Well, if
Hey,
you
guys.
only break it down by accessing the gun and then it just froze, and let's say it was just.
That is incorrect. There's actually such a thing called like a wireless jammer. Like those things can actually be the bane of those guns.
I think that there would have to be a kill switch on the individual, you know, weapon as well.
And who controls
But then that kind of that kind of like removes the.
Well,
So we can actually get
what I
such
would
a
say is that the jammer would actually have to be troubleshot before the technology was invented. So basically that there couldn't be a wireless jammer and that it wouldn't disrupt the
But
entire.
that's not how the wireless light spectrum
Oh,
works.
okay, but just let me say something here. We're getting past one very important thing here, and that's give me a reason why my gun should be electronic at all. Give me a reason why.
Okay, this is
should
the reason.
I agree.
This is the reason we have to protect people against themselves. That's why.
But that's actually stupid, because you know why?
Oh,
No,
right
no,
on,
it is
right on
stupid.
time,
It is stupid.
Caroline.
But there
Good,
you go.
very nice to have you here. We're talking about smart guns and why they're fucking retarded shit for commies.
They are.
What are your thoughts?
Well,
The thing about guns that are registered to specific users is that it's easier to keep track of who uses a gun, when they use the gun, and what they used it for.
That's actually a very bad idea, because you know what?
Now,
That is a bad idea.
I don't agree with having all of that information, but more specifically, the appealing aspect of it is just keeping a track of guns in general, the buying and selling.
But that's actually a bad idea.
But we can already do that with.
Well, criminals will
serial
always find a way to subvert that, like find a way
Guys.
to. And what you end up happening is people won't want to be tracked. and just-
Someone can
guns
buy
out
a
of pill-
gun
pill
legally,
bottles
but
and
anyone can
straws.
use it.
Like it.
Arden, can you please let people finish? Like, you keep interrupting people. Come on, dude.
Sorry. I just wonder when you guys actually finish, I can actually make my point, but you guys can finish. I try.
Go ahead, guys.
I don't know who was even saying, like...
You killed the mood, Edgy.
Yeah, I do that. I do that. I am a frigid bitch.
I do the same thing also all the time in real life. But also, for me, think about this. Like, I'm going to put you an example. In Metal Gear Solid 4, there's actually a form of gun control. And that's actually extremely terrifying to me. Because you know what? Imagine this. The nanomachines, like the gun you're actually issued to, could only be used by you. And also, like, if you want to actually, like, like remember the world was actually like the world in that game was actually completely controlled by the Patriots and all that kind of stuff. So like you can't actually like fight against them because they can easily block you from using any kind of firearm against them. Isn't that will that be a nightmare to you guys?
Well, I will say that like yes, but I find it fascinating that like there's so much sort of resistance to the idea of guns and what we do with our guns and our stuff being tracked and devices and etc.
Guys,
Yet we
you
allow
have to be careful.
our computers and smartphones and cars to already embrace the sort of the technology of fingerprint scanners, users, etc. But like it's kind of interesting. I mean they're completely different. I don't want to like be accused of like false equivalency, but at the same time, it's sort of like there is some resistance to the idea of computers tracking the information. But what I'll say to tracking and like NSA tracking and everything is right now like this Hangout is being recorded by Google, and like every text message you've ever sent in your phone is been read by a bot like computer program line of code that has looked for keywords, and if it sees a keyword or key phrase that it knows to look for, it will flag it. But even if it's flagged, like there's not enough human manpower to actually listen in. Like there's this idea that the NSA is listening to your conversation. Well, like it's in the same way that when you use your voice assistant Siri, it knows what you're saying. So when
Same
you're
as Google
making a
Now.
phone call, like their computers know what you're saying, and if you say something bad, then a human might eventually look at it if
Yeah.
there's like a consistent system. But if you're not actually saying, very scary stuff, then that's the thing. And I'll add to actually because I know that like some terrorist organizations are actually aware of this and will use like in-game video game chats in like Call of Duty or something, where saying things like gun, kill, bomb, meeting, all that stuff, like it won't trigger because it's expected to be in that situation, so it doesn't trigger a watch list or anything. And that's how they sort of avoid that sort of communication.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, by the same token.
But isn't it okay though, even if that is the case? I mean, you're totally fine unless you're like gaining power or something like that, right?
Well, it's just like people are worried about like privacy, and it's sort of like it's. I mean,
I'm not really worried
some people
about
are
privacy, but yeah.
Some people are okay
here,
with.
So, hi guys.
Yeah. Some people are not okay with humans listening to what they do and what they say, and versus like a computer. Like somewhere on the internet, everything you've ever done in the last few years has been recorded and tracked.
Can I address this topic? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, you sort of started out with the idea that it's okay for people to watch. Okay.
Second. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, that it's okay for people to watch you and things like that. And then you also kind of like went with the opposite and went down the road of like why maybe people wouldn't want that. So what I would like to know is kind of like what your position is. I think I agree with you that it's we're already being watched. For the most part, things are already being monitored, and so much of our activity is to why be.
I wouldn't say it's monitored though, and that's actually the disagreement I'm saying is that it's not monitored, it's recorded in the sense of like it's being indexed essentially, but by a faceless entity that has no comprehension of what actually it's indexing even.
Yeah. So
right. I mean, but here's the thing: is that we're talking about we've gone from electronic smart guns to NSA spying, and these are two fundamentally different things. They almost have nothing to do with each other.
Right, there are so
much. But the technology we were talking about, like smart guns,
will
potentially
have
being tracked.
Okay, but when I need to shoot someone, I don't want to have to fucking swipe right. Like, there's so many opportunities for failure with this technology that it's not practical because you don't.
That's how I feel.
Hold on. You don't need your phone at a moment's notice to make a phone call, but you might need your gun at a moment's notice, and in that split second, you could die. You don't.
Okay. I think people, I think sedating people, I think like certain technology like that will actually rise, whereas killing people will go down, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that technology of stunning people and sedating people and tasing people should rise, because I think that killing people in the heat of the moment should dissipate. as it is anyway.
Okay, so are we gonna have smart
No.
tranquilizer guns
What
too?
a fucking pussy.
Well, that
I
sort of crosses the line of science fiction.
I have one thing to say about that. As far as the reliability of the technology, why not? I mean, why isn't there any R&D into increasing the reliability of said
That's
technology?
a fucking stupid idea.
Why
It's
is
not
it a
profitable.
stupid idea?
It's not profitable at this point. There's
Yeah.
no.
Why can't? Why can't?
It's very
Why
dangerous
can't
also.
we
Nobody's going to buy a gun with a fucking text function.
Why can't we advance our technology to the point where we're able to have it as reliable as just picking up the gun and shooting it?
Well, I
No,
mean,
because
here's the thing: is that changing something isn't necessarily advancing it. Change isn't always a good thing.
I'm sorry. Sometimes you want
How dare you?
You have to give a reason why the change is bad.
Well, no. If you're claiming that the change would be good, that's on you to show me that it's good. That's not my job to show you that it's bad.
I just told you why it would be good. To
Okay,
advance the
but
technology and make it
but
more
you're
reliable.
telling me why it would be good in the context of an idealized hypothetical thing that doesn't exist yet.
Windows 10. Boom. There you go.
Isn't the reliability of
Windows
technology a
fucking
good
10.
thing?
Upgrade better? No, fuck that.
The minions
having
movie.
a more
Objectively, is that I think a lot of people agree with that, but at the same time, it's also subjective as fuck, isn't it?
Isn't having a more reliable technology a good thing? Especially when we're talking about something
More
like
reliable?
Maybe
more reliable, more responsive.
Okay, but this isn't something that should ever be forced on the public unless it's absolutely can be demonstrated to be reliable. And I believe, if I remember correctly, the Obama administration has already tried to push smart gun-related legislation when we still don't know if they're actually any good.
I don't agree with forcing it on people. I agree with advancing the technology to a point where people will prefer.
Really?
Okay.
Yes.
So
The only reason that technology advances is in the pursuit of profit.
Guys,
Well, that's not necessarily always the case. Sometimes there can be other motivations to advancing technology.
Or survival.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like I'd give the example of like sort of 3D printing technology and specifically 3D printing of DNA, which is something actually that I have a lot of friends who are very close with. But it's like the advances made in it, even just recently, are actually it's scary to the general public how far like I have a friend who's basically for her grad project or for her school was to write a fake line of DNA, 3D print it, insert it in a bacteria, and have that bacteria's own essentially systems reproduce said line of 3D printed artificial bacteria. Or sorry, artificial DNA, and the research into that has nothing to do with like altering like human genome sort of thing. It's actually to do with data storage, of finding out a way to 3D print DNA into data storage and essentially bacteria and all that sort of stuff. But people are essentially looking at what's happening, saying, oh, you can go in and you're going to go in and edit the thing. Well, not necessarily, but that is the potential side effect of doing research into data storage in 3D printing DNA, et cetera, is that people can take the technology and use it elsewhere. And so, to say what Frost is saying is that essentially, am I lagging? I don't know.
You're not at all.
No, you sound fine.
Okay, but yeah, is that a smart gun technology might arise as a result of other technologies such as smart cars, smartphones, etc. Like a lot of other technologies, sort of, and then it just gets applied at one point in the future, and is proven to be kind of reliable, but it still comes to the option. I agree that it can be an option. People can go for it, sure. Just like with any risks, so long as people are properly educated about the risks involved in failures and etc. of purchasing such a weapon and the limitations, then it can be a viable market alternative then. But as it stands, there is no sort of money in developing specifically for that gun.
Right. I mean, I feel like if yeah, it looks like he did drop, but I'm sure he'll be back. But I feel like even if a viable technology were developed, even if it were really trustworthy and I could count on it not to fail on me or cause a problem for me, I still probably wouldn't want it. And I feel like a lot of people who want guns or own guns would probably share that opinion. You know, I can't imagine that any of the gun owners I know would be gung ho about, oh yeah, let me install this this superfluous technology that doesn't actually provide a benefit, doesn't make the gun perform better, because that's really what it's about.
It could appeal though to
Yeah,
sorry for cutting you off. It could appeal to then people who don't want to purchase a firearm, conventional firearm, in that sense of, in the same way that there are a lot of people who have pepper spray and as Lyrical was saying, like non-lethal options. Maybe they don't agree with killing people, and those people might purchase that type of firearm versus others. Like, yeah.
How does
But
that,
you know what,
how
this
does
is a bit
having a
terrifying,
smart
by the
gun
way.
relate to not wanting a lethal weapon?
Guys.
Sorry? No,
I'm sorry.
what I was talking to what Frost was saying about like, why can't we advance technology to a point where smart gun technology is viable or reliable, or shown to be like 900 or like 99%, you know, effective, or however
What about smart bullets? I just
guns do
looked in the
fail and
chat.
jam and etc. But
Yeah, but I don't
What about
understand
smart
what that has to
bullets?
do with the lethal qualities of the weapon. I don't understand the connection.
That's a
Guys?
different topic entirely.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I
what
was
about...
just sort of suggesting that actually, yes, there will probably be a point in time where smart gun is more reliable and is pushed into the market with more marketing and etc.
That'd be a
Whether or
bad
not
idea
it's
also.
accepted or not
But
is
the
just,
thing
well,
is,
there's lots of bad ideas, but
I don't know,
yeah.
man. I take issue with the
like,
fact that someone wants to put limitations on my right to own a gun, or anyone
No,
else's right.
but that's
but
not
that's actually a
what we're
problem.
talking about. We're
That
talking
is
about
actually a
legislation.
problem.
But it is a limitation on your right to own a gun because certain
No,
only
it's
certain
Actually,
people
not
can fire a
replacing
gun.
existing guns. It's
It's not
a market
replacing
alternative.
your.
It
Yeah.
here's
essentially
something.
what I'm saying, yeah, market alternative.
Here's something, guys. The government need to...
Nor is it
you have-
taking away your ability to own the specific type of gun you want, but allowing for more options and more safe alternatives to where someone can't just steal your gun from you and be able to use it. I don't see a problem with that.
How often does
Like
that
for
even happen?
me, like
Just
for
think
me,
about how many guns are treated illegally.
yeah, that's pretty
Well,
much a
the
lot.
only thing that for us, I would say that probably illegal gun trade wouldn't be affected. Like, there would probably be some ways to hack or circumvent like any controls on smart gun, and essentially, I feel like there would be, like, I don't think that would stop necessarily illegally trading guns.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
it-
definitely.
I'm gonna
It
go
would
out and come back in. I'm
curtail
having
it
a
little
problem.
bit.
Hey
It would
guys,
possibly help curtail it a little bit. That's all.
like for me, that's actually a really bad idea. Cause you know why? I do not want the government to have any control over my gun. That'd be scary.
Right, that's my
Because
point.
again, you actually open that up. A gun is, as Edgy said, a gun is completely mechanical. Like they haven't really changed for over 100 years. So why should you actually defeat perfection? The best thing you can actually improve is like the gunpowder formula to make it more powerful.
Well, there are slight advances in gun technology, but I'd agree, like for like your average carbine rifle, primarily the advances in making it material lighter but stronger. So like modern guns are lighter, made out of essentially like material that doesn't break down as quickly and can stay cleaner, better, and hopefully mitigate like mechanical failure or jams or etc. So like there is sort of some advancements, but I'd
Right,
agree,
there's
like
engineering
gun
advances
haven't
in
changed,
everything.
but
Things get more efficient every day.
Well, let me ask you
except
guys.
for government. Government does not get more
Think about
efficient.
it like this.
I can't argue with that.
Let's say the gun was like a training gun. You know, let's say you gave it to like kids, you know, that were learning how to use a gun, but didn't want to have accidents like that poor, you know, 5 or 6 kindergartner.
Yeah.
Right, like we remember that story. You
Yeah.
know, so let's say like a smart gun used like certain features like that, where it would just recognize that this was a child, you know, or a younger person learning how to use a gun. I mean, in those ways, like having certain like control features wouldn't necessarily be bad.
Well,
I don't
what
think
I'd say,
children should shoot guns, but that's just my
Well,
opinion.
what I'd say is that could be a good selling point to a smart gun marketer, like or company that's manufacturing smart guns. But clearly, like I don't think like
It shouldn't be a law, right?
it shouldn't be
It shouldn't be a
enforced
law.
that but it should be an alternative provided. And if it is proven over time to be a reliable alternative and safer and etc., people will adopt it. Essentially, that's how a lot of products get popular, like cars, for instance. Like the automobile was originally, when it was first invented, right? It was sort of like, oh, this only rich people will ever want that kind of toy. It doesn't, like, horses are more reliable, all this sort of stuff like that. And next thing you know, within 20 years, all of our cities have been redesigned for the automobile. After, like, so, you know, but the automobile had to prove itself as sort of a reliable alternative in that sense.
The world will naturally adopt new technology if it proves itself worthy over time.
But it doesn't necessarily have to replace older technology.
Yeah.
And I think this would be a special case in which it probably wouldn't. Like you probably see still old-fashioned guns. They'd definitely still be manufactured for sure. Because I highly doubt the military, despite all their effort in creating AI planes and drones and combat robots, they sort of I don't think they would allow that sort of full control of that system.
Sorry.
Yeah, that would cause a lot of trouble with the military, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it
Because
would
then,
be.
like, should they have their guns like that? And yeah.
They should not ever.
And think about the manufacturing cost of having the electronic stuff along with the gun. It would have to be super expensive. And would people be willing to pay that? And yeah.
Well, right. I mean, and that's something that's actually been a key element of gun control measures pushed by gun control advocates. Is let's find ways to make this more expensive. Let's put a huge tax on ammunition. Let's put a huge tax on magazines or limit the size of magazines.
If you tax ammunition, people are just going to manufacture their own. Like,
yeah, they would.
Right.
Start doing that.
Right, but it's not really the point. It's the principle of government trying to put stumbling blocks and impede law-abiding citizens from owning things that they want to own, which, whether it's guns or anything else, is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, it's interesting that with guns it's sort of the special case, but we're completely okay with the government putting limitations on cars, on knowing how to use a car and having a license and maintaining a license and paying insurance.
That's because you drive a car on a public street surrounded by other people on a street that other people paid for along with you. It's a little different from like if I buy a gun and all it does is sit in my house and I never take it out except to go to the range or something. That's completely different from driving a car. So I just don't see the comparison there.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, guns are a different, unique case, but anyway, it's interesting how I'm not trying to say like, oh, you should universally apply your principles to everything, even if they're arbitrarily they're clearly inherently different. I'm just saying,
right.
I don't know, just pointing out in general.
Yeah, I think
because we were mentioning smart cars.
Sorry, I get a little triggered just at the prospect of these things.
I think it's important to look at each of those cases with a unique lens and not just try and apply something like that to everything that falls under that category. I mean, guns are different from cars in a lot of different ways.
Right.
But I think I don't think a lot of people would adopt a technology like that without having a particular reason to.
Right.
Yeah, unless it offered. I think it was Steve Jobs who once said that people don't know what they want until you tell them what they want, and there is some truth to that. Is like like smartphones, for instance. Who even conceived of something like a smartphone until it was invented, and then when people saw how amazing and useful it was, suddenly everyone wanted one, and now we all probably have one.
Well, I'd say some.
Actually, wrong. The
Some sci-fi
smartphone was a
writers.
again. The smartphone was actually created like back in the 90s, like with the IBM. I forgot what it was, but smartphones only became popular in the iPhone era.
It's ironic. Socrates said the same thing.
I'd also like to point out though that like the smartphones have evolved out of a lot of
Nothing
advances
wrong.
in other fields like computing and batteries. Like for
Yeah.
example, like cell phone batteries. Essentially, the modern smartphone battery exists because of electric cars, sort of thing. Like the sort of that
Lithium-ion.
and like cell phones existed since the 70s, and people don't realize that the first smartphone prototypes, like portable computers that also made calls, were coming out like I mentioned earlier in the stream. This company Nortel, which all but went under, but way back, way before BlackBerry, way before Apple, like they had designed a
Yeah.
prototype smartphone. Just the only problem is the prototype cost several $1,000s to manufacture, and just they deemed it like couldn't bring it to market at a
It's
proper selling
impractical.
point. So
Right,
like
and the way
like
R&D works is if you don't prove that your technology is necessary and it's viable and that people are going to want to buy it, it's bullshit. No one's going to pay for that, especially if it's expensive, which when you
Actually,
bring those things to market, first of all, it is.
I actually do have some Blackberries. I actually have like an older Blackberry account on the 12, but my new smartphone is much better than a Blackberry. But also, when it actually comes like to cell phones, also, like just imagine like what is the smartest cell phone you get on the market right now?
Depends who you ask.
Like I think
who
Nokia's.
dominates the smartphone market? You mean?
No, what is the smallest one you can get in the smallest cell phone you can buy?
That's interesting because the trend is larger phones right now.
What?
Tablets.
Yeah, we spent 20 years trying to get cell phones as small as we possibly could, and now we're making them fucking huge again.
With screens. You do
Yeah,
have
it's the same with roads. We took ages making roads as like smooth as we could, and then we put like speed bumps in them. It's just exactly the same
Yeah,
thing.
because we want to regulate speed.
Going backwards, people.
Well, I'm kind of a libertarian. I don't think we should regulate speed.
Oh boy.
So you're is that? Oh, that's a drug reference. I'm
Yes,
guessing.
it is.
Okay, good.
All right, guys. I'm getting to the point where I am gonna shut it down. I'm hitting the 2-hour mark.
Do the
So-
Goyim,
Okay,
do the
good
Goyim know?
Good night, man. But also,
But,
that was really good.
Yeah, it was really fun, and you guys
It
are
was.
amazing, and I enjoyed talking with all you guys.
Thanks.
Oh,
Thank
thank you for having
Thanks
fun.
for having
It was
us
nice
on.
to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
to meet you.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Reading Ren and Jason Fry in the chat say, this weapon's operating system has expired. Please update for option to use trigger.
Oh man, that would be terrible.
Imagine if Microsoft got into the weapons industry. That would just be like
Perfect
the first
example. Perfect
So
example.
you
You like
Do you
your
really-
free upgrade to the
do you-
new firmware.
Yeah, do you really want Microsoft in charge? This phone needs to be updated to Windows 11. You can't fire until you upgrade to Windows 11.
Again, again, and how much does it cost? How much does it really
Whatever
cost
happens,
anyway?
just don't let
And how
Microsoft
huge
touch it.
and how huge will the app market be for firearms? Just think about that for a moment. The fucking Windows Store on your fucking gun.
You probably get like sound effect apps, things like that.
You go to the
Whoa.
gun store. Go to the gun store. Like, can this AR-15 run Clash of Clans?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, fucking cryo
Can I-
emulation.
That'd be a dangerous game.
Can I get the laser rifle? Bloody hell, laser rifle module
got
to
a
make
credit
keep
card
human
flyer
noises
for
every time I fire.
I want cryo rounds.
Spock to end, or to, and you could get the phaser type. Just you have to actually communicate with the Enterprise first to fire.
I'm sorry. Okay. Like, I'm gonna go off. Like,
Bye,
talk to you
Art.
guys later.
Bye
Like,
bye.
some people
Bye,
like this cow.
Speaking of that,
So
there's a
long,
laser rifle
farewell.
in Guild Wars 2 that makes that sound.
So guys, I'm gonna go off air, but you guys are welcome to stay and chat if you like. And if people want to join, we're gonna be off air, but if you guys want to pop in and talk, that's fine. The link is in the description. So feel free to pop in, guys. And thank you everybody again. You guys were awesome.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
I'll tell you what app I want for my gun. I want an app that changes the firing sound effect from an actual gun firing sound to the sound of a human being making a gun firing sound.
I think I'd go for a lightsaber because I'm just a weirdo like that.
I want the home run bat
Every
noise
time.
from Super
wanna
Smash
keep me
Bros. Melee.
I want the good, the bad, and the ugly sound whenever I pull a gun from its holster.
I want it to make the Windows startup sound whenever I fire.
I want dial-up.
I would fail to stop the broadcast. My internet is not working. It's so bad that it didn't even stop it. So we're still live.
Wow.
Oh boy. Oh wow. I know.
And
I know.
22
American internet.
Take it all back. Take it all back.
Okay, let's see if it works this time. We're gonna be live forever.